Today, we're looking at a genuinely transformational story. We're going to talk about a guy named Victor. Victor was a taxi driver, and he actually managed to completely escape a lifelong cycle of financial stress and what we call survival mode. And get this, he didn't do it by winning the lottery, he didn't get some magic handout. He did it through absolutely relentless self-education, literally using the driver's seat of his cab as a classroom. So let's break down exactly how he pulled this off. But before we really get into Victor's journey, I kind of want you to hold up a mirror to your own life right now. Seriously, ask yourself, what if you are completely wasting your current situation? Think about your daily grind. Do you just view it as a trap you're trying to survive, or could it actually be an unseen opportunity just waiting to be leveraged? Keep that thought in the back of your mind as we walk through this. So for Victor, his daily grind was an absolute trap. Wake up early, drive endlessly, fight mind-numbing traffic, maybe spill lukewarm coffee on himself, sleep totally exhausted, and then repeat the whole shebang the next day. He grew up in a really crowded apartment surrounded by constant, heavy financial stress. His dad worked these long factory shifts, his mom sold food to neighbors, and as a kid, he watched the adults around him basically slowly lose hope. They were emotionally exhausted just trying to keep the lights on. When he eventually started driving a cab, he thought, hey, this is a temporary fix. But temporary situations become incredibly dangerous traps when survival mode takes over and hopelessness just silently grows. Section 1, the survival mode trap. When life feels invisible. Let's dive right into this stark, everyday reality of Victor's life, inside that taxi, feeling utterly stuck and entirely unseen by the world passing by his windows. You really have to look at the sheer contrast in reality here. On one side of the glass, you've got Victor. He's exhausted, merely surviving his days and feeling entirely invisible. But then, on the other hand, right there in his back seat are these businessmen. They're building futures, handling immense pressure, actively utilizing their time. One evening, he dropped off a really successful guy who had just spent 30 minutes confidently discussing big investments on his phone. And suddenly, that painful gap between merely surviving and actively building, it became glaringly obvious to him. Section 2. A mindset-changing conversation, the midnight passenger. Everything shifted during one rainy midnight ride. An older passenger carrying a stack of books gets into the cab, and he notices Victor quietly listening to a motivational podcast. The man asks if he likes learning, and Victor sort of awkwardly replies that, well, he's just trying to improve his life. And the man responds with this piece of absolute gravity-shifting advice. He says, then never waste your current situation. He pointed out that universities literally charge thousands of dollars for the lessons Victor was getting for free, every single day. Think about it. Hundreds of people sit in his back seat every month. It's a revolving door of different mindsets, lifestyles, mistakes. All he had to do was observe and treat them like his professors. Section 3, the lonely phase of growth. Internal changes before external results. That single conversation was a total game changer. Victor stopped seeing the taxi as a punishment. Instead, he shifted his perspective and began viewing that small, confined car as an active, daily classroom. And this brilliantly illustrates what he actually did. Instead of just driving mindlessly, he turned his passengers into a real-time focus group. He studied exactly how successful people communicated. He observed their psychology, analyzed how they handled pressure and failure. And between rides, he aggressively consumed audiobooks and read up on digital business, emotional control, leadership. He was gathering real-world data on every single shift. He was literally treating his cab like a rolling laboratory for self-improvement. But, here's the hard truth about growth. Externally, Victor was still driving taxis. He was still financially struggling, still physically exhausted. His friends even mocked him. They were laughing at the idea of a taxi driver studying business. It was incredibly isolating. Internally, however, he was building intense discipline, expanding his mindset, growing real, hard-earned confidence. The reality is, true internal mindset changes happen long, long before your external life ever catches up. Section 4. Facing the ultimate test, when life tries to break you. Now, just as Victor was really building momentum, life completely fell apart. His engine blew. It just completely failed. Without the taxi, he couldn't work. The repair costs were devastating, and for weeks, the stress just consumed him. All those heavy childhood thoughts of hopelessness crept right back in. Sitting there alone in a repair shop parking lot, he felt totally emotionally defeated. He genuinely wanted to just quit trying entirely. But right at his absolute lowest moment, he remembered the older passenger's words, "Never waste your current situation." This was it. This was the test. Was his mindset shift actually real, or was it just a fun little idea when things were easy? Because when life gets incredibly hard, you really only have two choices. A difficult season can either teach you or it can destroy you. That choice depends entirely on your mindset. So instead of surrendering to the devastation, Victor chose to let it teach him. He chose to continue learning and rebuilding despite the immense, crushing struggle. Section 5. The real transformation. The external payoff. Let's fast forward a bit, because all of that relentless, invisible self-improvement finally broke through to the surface. His internal growth was about to create an unexpected, completely life-changing opportunity. Over the course of 2 years, the compounding effect of his habits was just massive. Turns out, a regular passenger who happened to own a transportation company had been quietly observing Victor. He noticed his calm professionalism, his confident communication, the way he solved problems, and out of nowhere, this passenger offered him a management role, coordinating drivers, handling customer operations, the whole shebang. Victor was terrified, for sure, but he trusted his years of internal growth, accepted the job, and absolutely attacked it with discipline. So, the crucial point is looking at the final results. We're talking financial stability, true confidence, a peaceful mindset, and meaningful purpose. He worked harder, learned rapidly, and completely transformed his reality. The insecure driver who once felt invisible was now a strong, capable leader. He realized that the difficult years he once hated had actually educated him way more deeply than a life of comfort ever could. Years later, a young taxi driver actually asked Victor how he managed to escape that life. And Victor's response? It completely cements the ultimate takeaway of this explainer. He simply said, "I stopped driving through life blindly and started learning from it." I want to leave you with a provocative thought here. How will you use your current difficult season as your greatest education? Seriously, it is time to stop seeing your daily grind as a trap. Observe, study, and start leveraging your current situation to build your future today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it sparks a change in how you view your own classroom. See you next time.